Amber Alert Podcast.
Welcome, Amber Alert Podcast, episode 119, part 1. I am your host, Amber Starkey. It's a great day to be alive. It's a super rainy and overcast Friday where I live, and you'll get no complaints out of me. I actually like storms and I like rainy weather. I like overcast days because I always feel like I can relax. What irritates me is when the sun comes out and puts pressure on me on a day that I intended to relax, because it feels like if the sun is out, you need to get stuff done. Whereas overcast weather just lets you chill, which I appreciate, which is why I respect it. So it's part 1, which is news, and my least favorite part of these podcast episodes, because I just don't I don't care for the news that much, although I do think it's important to know what's going on. There are some things, I'll say this, some of the stuff that I see is so heinous and so terrible that I literally cannot put it in here because I don't want to read it, even like myself, and I'm definitely not going to say it out loud. There's some stuff I can't watch the videos. I just can't, because it's terrible. So I try to skim through things that I think are noteworthy, but it may not even be the biggest news that happened in the last week, because I intentionally left some things out. You know what I'm saying? So I would like to get through this part as fast as I can. I'm excited for part 2. So that is the part of every episode where it's always either something supernatural or something like a conspiracy theory of some kind, which oftentimes those two things go hand in hand. But it seems like usually what I end up talking about is something that's negative or evil. And it's not that I want to highlight those things. It just seems like there are more stories that involve the negative side of the spirit realm. But this week, we're going to talk about the positive side and share some, in my opinion, awesome stories, supernatural stories, very encouraging. In fact, several of them, it's a few short videos, but several of them brought me to tears because I love stories like that, and they give glory to God, which I'm a big fan of. So we'll do that in part 2. And then part 3 is always the Bible. And actually, what I'm ending with in part 2 is going to kind of bleed right into part 3, because it's the person in that last video is a living example of what I wanted to talk about in part 3, which I already planned before I decided the subject for part 2. So it's almost like a God thing, right? Making sure I have content, because I realized that last night I was like, oh my goodness, I don't have a topic for part 2 this week. What am I going to do? So then that came to mind and it all worked out. But before we get there, let's get through the news. What do we got here? Mamdani. So this resurfaced footage of Mamdani has gone viral, where he admits to manipulating white liberals to vote him into power. This is the Democrat playbook from Dinesh D'Souza. I believe there is a video. Let's play it and see what this little weirdo had to say. Resurfaced. I wonder how old it is.
The interesting thing about our communities here is I think that minority communities, because we have never had representation, we are tied much more to identity. White communities, they've had representation forever. And so for them, their tie is a little less identity and a little more ideology. And so what I mean by that is we have a lot of voters here who think of themselves first as progressive voters. Mm-hmm. And so we reach out to them speaking about our platform, our progressive platform. And you're very right that you need someone in the middle to be a validator, someone to tell them to trust us, believe in us. We've had that with Tiffany Caban and Cynthia Nixon. I think that with the interesting thing about our communities here is I think that minority
that's like I like Dinesh D'Souza, but I don't really think that's like the bombshell that maybe he meant for it to be. I will say this: I don't understand like the tribal inclinations people have. Like, hey, this person looks like me, so I'm going to vote for them. I don't care about that. I don't care if they're from where I'm from. I don't care if they look like me, talk like me. If they suck, I'm not voting for them. I will vote for someone who has literally nothing in common with me that I think is going to like put forth the policies that I think are right. I don't care at all about my race, my like the genetic makeup I'm like German and Swiss. I don't care. I don't care if any of that is in common. What are your policies? And I'll vote for you. I don't care if you have polka dotted skin. Like, it doesn't matter. If your policies are right, you got my vote. So I don't know why that works on people. Why do you care what the person looks like and not about like what they're going to do on paper? That's what should matter. I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't feel like I owe other white people anything. I'll vote for you because I'm a fellow white person. No, if you suck, I won't vote for you. Next. Let me blow this up so I can read it. Watch that sounds German. Schwarzel's tee shot at whatever that Roman numeral is. Golf, New York rolled into a pond where a largemouth bass immediately jumped out and swallowed the ball. I guess that's better than a gator, but I think they caught it on video. So let's see this fish jump out and eat his ball.
Oh.
Like the fish was ready. Dang, okay. Yeah. Wasting no time. Now, I don't really know that much about golf. But aren't you, at least we say this in mini golf, you gotta play it where it landed. So if that's true for that kind of like professional golf, then wouldn't that mean you got to catch the fish? You got to pick it up, have somebody hold it, and then you got to swing. I don't know what the rules are for that, because I'm sure that's, it can't be that uncommon for something like that to happen, or a gator shows up, whatever. I'm sure they have rules built in, but I don't know what they are. Next. Let me make this bigger. President Trump is cutting off Medicaid funding for gender transition hormones and surgeries for minors, a move that could affect coverage in at least 17 states and dozens of hospitals nationwide. Good. If you want to cut off your wiener, you can pay for it. Next. In Arkansas, a high school football player got a terrifying surprise when he discovered a venomous cottonmouth snake hiding inside the padding of his helmet. Well, if this kid put the helmet back on, you're braver than me, because I would never put it back on. I might actually die. Let's see. There's a video here. This is like the worst thing that could happen.
A 2-foot-long cottonmouth.
Why is this blue?
There
we go.
Foot-long cottonmouth snake slithered its way into a high school football player's helmet in Arkansas. After about an hour of practicing, the student told coaches about some discomfort with his helmet, and they discovered the venomous snake. The reptile lodged itself underneath the helmet's padding so deep that the officers called to the scene could not get the snake out. Animal Services had to submerge the helmet in water. They grabbed the snake when it came up for air. The student was not hurt and now has a new helmet.
That is disgusting.
A 2-foot-long cottonmouth snake.
Why wouldn't you just get rid of the helmet? Just burn the whole thing. Pour some gasoline in there and then light it on fire. That's awful. How did you wear that for an hour and then live to tell about it? That's so disgusting. Glad the kid is okay, though. Next. A Los Angeles man noticed ripples in his backyard pool and discovered a massive bear taking a dip to cool off from the scorching heat. Somebody had a bear in their pool. I'm a big fan of bears. Let's watch this.
Backyard pool, and here's why. A huge bear cooling off in the mid-90s temperature, ready for a drink, and maybe one of those little umbrellas in there as well. The man says the bear did eventually wander off, but not after giving him some looks, perhaps for the bad drink service. A man in Los Angeles spotted some ripples in his back.
I don't know, how much animals think. You got to wonder if the bear, it's scorching heat. You have a very thick fur coat. and you find yourself a pool, I wonder if the bear is just floating around like, man, this is awesome. I got to do this again. I don't know. That just is. I assume that guy didn't go outside. I wouldn't. I'd be like, I guess it's his pool now. I wonder how the chlorine, well, I guess it could be a saltwater pool. I always have wondered about that when an animal gets into a pool that like is a chlorine pool. I have always wondered what that does to like their skin. Obviously, it doesn't hurt us, so maybe they're okay with it. But I thought I remembered when I was younger, like when we lived in South Carolina, we had a pool, and I think I remember like several times we'd go out there and there would be like frogs that had gotten into the pool, and I thought like they were dying from the chlorine. I could be wrong. Maybe they can handle it, but I always thought it would kill them eventually. And of course, that's a completely different kind of animal than a bear, but I don't know how all that works. Anyway, next. What does this say? Marco Rubio finding out he's about to also become the White House press secretary. So he's going to get his 80th job as Secretary of State. He really is like the busiest one ever. Because Carolyn Leavitt is, if you guys didn't see this week, she's stepping down as the press secretary. And I think it's because she just wants to spend time with her family because she just had another baby. Which I don't blame her, because that would be, I think, a high stress job. And if you're like, you've got 2 little kids, I don't blame you. Next. Former SPLC CFO Heidi Beirich, however you say it, she said white supremacy is one of the worst things mankind has come up with. And then look what happened. She was just indicted for allegedly secretly funding white supremacist groups. Simply incredible. So if I remember correctly, I think this story broke earlier this year, that SPLC. So what they, I believe, like, I don't know if it's right to say they primarily existed for this, but a large part of what they did was they said, we are combating white supremacy. And then come to find out this year, they've actually been funding those groups. So she got indicted for that. And then if what I read is correct from another source, wherever I read it, I don't remember now, her lover was part of one of those groups. So I don't know what person would be in a relationship with her. Obviously a terrible person and with terrible judgment. So great job for the justice system. Next. Dr. Turek, how should Christians cope with the possibility of loved ones who may be in hell? Ooh, I am interested to hear what he's going to say because I have not watched this yet. And in my opinion, he's fascinating to watch because he's a great apologist, but he's just very well-rounded theologically. So when he gets some of these very interesting questions, people don't, this is a tough one. I will say that it's a very tough question because, and I think honestly too, this is why, before I play the video, I think this might be why some people have kind of adopted a doctrine that hell isn't real, or at least it's not forever, is probably because a loved one, someone close to them, died and they don't think they knew Christ. And in order to like live with the reality of that person being in hell for eternity, they've adopted a doctrine that allows them to not think about that or accept that. I think there's sort of a psychological driver behind it. And, maybe some people are just convinced somehow there isn't a hell. Jesus talked about it more than heaven, so I don't really know how you ignore that. But anyway, this is a valid question, so I am going to let the man speak. Once it loads.
He said, my mother was a survivor of the Holocaust. She lived a life full of pain and suffering. Toward the end of her life, someone offered her the gospel, but she rejected it, and then she died. Is she in hell right now?
Ooh. Let's hear it.
I've been a Christian for 3 years now, and I've wrestled with the idea of the reality of hell and God's judgment in that regard. And I've had some distant family members and a couple friends pass away in the past few weeks. And talking about hell is something that I feel like we should always talk about with a tear in our eye, is what I've heard. And but I've shed a lot of tears at night just thinking about that, and wrestled with like different views on hell, like annihilationism and so forth. But I think the eternal conscious torment position is what I think is faithful to Scripture.
Yes, agree.
And
Hey, and I'll say, I know that it is tough to think about that and acknowledge that, but if you do just want to be aligned with the truth, you do have to accept some things that may be uncomfortable, and that's where you just ask for God's grace. And if you're gonna grow like in your faith, like ask for God's grace to help you with the areas that are hard for you to align with the truth, because everybody's probably got them one way or another, whether you grew up in church and you got to unlearn a bunch of stuff, you're whatever. It's like everyone's probably going to get to that point. So if you just ask him to help you stay rightly aligned with the truth, he will.
I know that it makes sense that if we've offended an eternal God, we deserve an eternal punishment. I understand that in my mind, but just I wrestle with like experiencing God's love and comfort, knowing that that's just a reality, and knowing that God loves those around me as well, like my family members and so forth that have. And I know that we can't know for certain people's eternity. Like, we're not God. We don't know their last moment. But I guess I have no reason to believe that certain people did put their faith in Jesus.
Okay, let's suppose for the sake of argument they didn't. Is hell unjust?
No, it
it's
isn't.
not unjust.
Okay, so if it's not unjust, why is it problematic?
I don't think it's just problematic. I don't think it's wrong. Like, I don't think God is unjust for doing that. I think my
maybe Dr. Turk's going to get to this, but if there is not the whole thing about the Bible is legal, salvation is legal. We owed a legal debt because of our sin. Jesus paid it. So if you don't accept the payment that was provided freely for you, then you still owe for that debt. It's literally legal. God is lawful. So and also too, he respects your free will. So if you don't want him, you're like, I don't believe in him, I don't like him if he is real, I don't want to be with him for eternity, then he will let you have what you want. You'll go to the place where he isn't, which is hell. So it's like, he's not wrong for now, it wasn't created for people, it was prepared for the devil and his angels, but people who don't get back into right relationship with God through the means that was given, that was provided, which is Jesus, the only way to the Father, then the alternative is to go where your sin leads you, because you never got it paid for. So it is not wrong. The reason it's hard for people is because they do know someone probably that they cared about, and they don't think that person died in Christ. And that is and then to think of them suffering in eternal torment is hard emotionally to deal with, but it is not unjust.
question's more of like an emotional question.
It is. I understand. The issue, though, is that if God is the standard of justice, and he is, and if there are different levels of punishment in hell, just like there are different levels of reward in heaven, because God is just, then whoever is in hell is getting the appropriate, perfect level of punishment for their sin. And their sin didn't just have to do with what they did here. They continue to sin in hell. There's weeping and gnashing of teeth. People are still set against God in hell. So that's why the punishment continues according to this view. So if you look at the closest thing we have in the scriptures to this, Luke 16, you've got Lazarus, the beggar, being asked by the rich man in Hades, Lazarus, come and put water on my tongue. I'm in agony in this fire, And notice something about this rich man. Number one, he doesn't say he shouldn't be in hell or Hades. He doesn't He's not repentant. He's still treating Lazarus like he's his servant.
Yes, I have noticed the same thing. I remember reading that, years ago, and I was like, look at this guy who's burning in hell, and he's still treating Lazarus like a servant because Lazarus was a beggar. So this guy recognized that's Lazarus the beggar, and he's like, Abraham, send him to get some water to cool my tongue, like he's beneath me. It's like you're literally in hell, and you still see this guy who's in heaven as beneath you. What is your problem?
And all he says is, go tell my brothers about this place. Not that I shouldn't be here. I got a raw deal. Just tell my brothers about it. And what does Jesus say in the parable? Hey, they have Moses and the prophets. If they don't believe them, they're not going to believe if someone rises from the dead. In fact, it can be emotionally difficult. However, if God is love and is just, nobody's going to be treated unfairly in the afterlife. There's only two things you can get in the afterlife. You can get justice or you can get grace. Either you can pay for your own sin or you can allow Jesus to pay for your own sin. That's it. It's really simple.
True. That's
and
true.
Some people don't want Jesus. So God lets them go their own way. In fact, let me just tell you something that happened. I was at University of Michigan. This had to be 15 years ago.
Michigan sucks.
I was doing a debate with an atheist, Eddie Tabash, and Eddie asked me this question. He said, my mother was a survivor of the Holocaust. She lived a life full of pain and suffering. Toward the end of her life, someone offered her the gospel, but she rejected it, and then she died. Is she in hell right now? And I said, Eddie, I don't know where your mother is now. I don't know if she had a deathbed conversion. But if she didn't repent and accept Christ before she died, then God is too loving to force her into heaven against her will. Because what's the assumption? Everybody wants to go to heaven. That is not true. Who's in heaven? Jesus is in heaven. There have been people running from Jesus their entire lives. What's he going to do in the afterlife? Hey, where are you going? You're with me now. Get over here. That wouldn't be right. You say, well, what's all this business about hell? Well, I used an illustration with the University of Michigan audience. I'll use it with you, ladies. I asked the ladies this question. So ladies, I'm asking you this question. Ladies, have you ever had a young man pursue you whom you did not want to date? Some of you are going, yeah, and he's sitting next to me right now. He will not leave me alone. Whenever I ask that question, the ladies giggle and the men look at their shoes. They're like, is she looking at me right now? Well, suppose it.
To be fair, sometimes it's the other way around.
This guy keeps asking you out, ladies. He keeps asking you out. And you finally say, look, I like you, but only as a
friend.
Ladies, why don't you just stick the knife in and turn it? Every man has heard the dreaded friend rejection. Gentlemen, I have some shocking news for you. She doesn't even like you as a friend.
Dang.
In fact, if she did, she'd be interested, but she's not. So move on, go to somewhere else. But suppose this guy keeps coming after you and he finally says, look, I love you so much, I'm going to force you to love me. Ladies, run screaming from the building. Can he force you to love him? No, love by definition must be freely given. So if he truly did love you, what would he do? He would leave you alone. That's what God does for us. He sends us cards, letters, and flowers. He sends us creation. He sends us conscience. He sends us Christ. He sends us the Bible. He sends us Evangel Church. He may send you a missionary. In some Muslim countries now, he's appearing to Muslims in dreams and visions, so much so that they're advertising this on billboards. If you saw the man in the white robe, call this number. If God does all that and you keep saying, no, 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 God will give you up to your own desires. He will leave you alone. You say, what could be so bad about that? Well, ladies and gentlemen, do you know that everybody, regardless of whether they're a Christian or not, experiences some of the common grace of God? We all experience, his rain falls on the just and the unjust. We all experience love, relationships, hope for a future. You know this, right? But I want you to imagine a place where there is no love, where there are no relationships, where there is no hope, where there is no future, where there's just stone cold narcissistic self-absorption. That is Capitol Hill. No. That is hell. You're separated from the ultimate source of goodness by your own choice. And God is not going to force you into his presence against your will. This is why C.S. Lewis famously said, there's only two kinds of people in the end. Those who say to God, thy will be done, and those who say to God, thy will be done. Or God says to them, thy will be done. So God is going to leave you alone, which is ultimately what hell is. So if some of your loved ones have died and they did not accept Christ, what do you think they would say to you right now, Ty? What would they want? What decision would they want you to make?
They certainly would want me to put my trust in Jesus.
That's the answer right there, right?
Great job, Dr. Turk. It is astonishing that, like in the book of Revelation, it talks about, during the tribulation, all these terrible things are happening, and there are people who still will not repent from the wicked deeds that they're doing. Instead, they just curse God. So it's like, you can bet there are people in hell. And then when it's all said and done, which we're not there yet, would still have the same attitude that they hate God. They want nothing to do with him. And God's like, have it your way then. And that's a shame, but that's what free will is about. Next. Again, Dr. Turk, this idea that you can prove everything by science is like a guy combing the beach with a metal detector saying there's no plastic on this beach. That's true, because you're looking at it through the lens of what you think you understand. And if you can't understand it, then, well, it must not be real. Okay, so that would, in order for that to be true, you would have to be all-knowing, which you're not. So, great job. Next. Make this bigger. 6,000 arrests, homicides down 44% as safe and secure capital. Just 1 year since the Make DC Safe and Beautiful task force began, Washington, D.C. is a safe city. Thank you, President Trump. A 44% drop is a pretty steep drop. I don't know why D.C. had, I mean, I guess all cities have like a murder rate that's high, but it seemed like D.C. was particularly bad. I'm not sure. Maybe still not as bad as Mansfield, Ohio. At least not per capita. I used to live in Mansfield, and at one point in time, and I don't know how long ago this was, but at one point in time, there were more murders in Mansfield, Ohio per capita than there were in Chicago. And I know I talked to someone, because I lived there for a couple years. And so I was going to a gym there. And I think it was the owner of the gym was telling me it has something to do with the prison system, where I don't know. It was something like when people are released, they keep them in the vicinity. Something, I don't know how you're allowed to do that. I can't remember. But it was something like that. So basically all of the people who got out were just like repeat offenders, and they would murder someone and then go back in. So I don't know if they've cleaned it up since then or what the case is, but I don't live there anymore, and I don't miss it. Next. I'm going to have to blow this up to make it bigger. All right. So people are getting like ripped off by these knockoff GLP-1s. So an American woman ordered knockoff weight loss drugs from a TikTok seller. That's your first mistake, is buying off of TikTok. And what she found should terrify anyone thinking about doing the same. She got funneled from a TikTok account into a private WhatsApp group. Okay, also don't do that. She ordered vials labeled semaglutide, and the supplier in China shipped them under the label scooter parts. What? Inside were injectable liquid products labeled and being sold for people to put into their bodies. This is insane. She sent 4 unopened vials to an independent third-party lab for identity, purity, and endotoxin testing. Here's what they found. The vial labeled semaglutide came back with 0 semaglutide actually in it. The lab found something in there, but it didn't match any peptide or small molecule in their reference library, meaning nobody knows exactly what was in that vial. So those are the GLP-1s, which are, everyone's calling them miracle drugs because, like Ozempic, it's like a knockoff version of Ozempic. And a bunch of people have lost weight, and most of them don't look very healthy. since losing weight, but people been looking for a cheaper alternative, and then they end up on these sketchy sites. Whatever happened to old-fashioned, clean up what you're eating and go to the gym instead of I mean, I also don't like needles, but I would literally never in a million years buy something sketchy when I could just have a little bit of discipline. And I know it's hard to start, but I'll tell you this. I mean, I am, by the grace of God, a very disciplined person, which I think is it's just part of my personality because I'm a type A person. So if I like determined to do something, I can't stand it if I don't do it. So that can be a blessing and a curse because it can kind of turn you into a psycho if things don't go according to plan. You're not very flexible, basically, but it does make you disciplined. So I go to the gym because I don't think about it. I just do it. In fact, if I think about it, I could talk myself out of it. I don't want to go, but I don't think about it. I'm like, this is just part of my life. It's part of my day. This is what I do. And I just go. And it's been years now. It's literally been years. So it's like, it's not like I need motivation anymore. It's literally just part of my life. And so once you get past that, everyone who doesn't go to the gym thinks, oh, I could never have that kind of discipline. I could never do that. I promise you can. Here's the reality of it. Thinking about doing it is worse than actually doing it. If you think about it, you'll talk yourself out of it. You don't want to do it. It seems overwhelming. It's too much. It'll take too long, blah, 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 blah. But I promise if you'll just start doing it, in no time, you'll find, oh, actually, this is not as bad as I thought, and it's something I can do. It's getting started that's harder. It's harder to start than it is to keep going. So go to the gym. Don't buy sketchy things off TikTok. Next. What do we got here? Oh, yeah. So Spain, they had that massive breach of their board. Well, I don't even know if it's a breach. It looked like, I don't know if people let them in. I'm not sure what happened, but basically they had a ton of migrants come storming into the country. And now the beach looks like a landfill or something disgusting. Look at what happened since all those people. Dang, just littered the place. No bueno. Terrible. Can't even swim. You'd have to go out into the deep water to swim. Okay, you know what that actually looks like? It reminds me of. Can this stop? Which Star Wars movie is it? I think it's the first one. When I say the first one, not the one that came out in 2000, I mean it would be episode 5 or whatever. I forget the name of it. When they get on to, I guess it's the OG Death Star or something, and they go to rescue Princess Leia. And as they're running from the Imperial stormtroopers, they go down into the garbage, part of this ship. And then, the walls start closing in, but that's what that looks like because there was water in there, but it's nothing but garbage. And that's now what Spain's beaches look like, thanks to that surge across their border. So not a good time to be in Spain. Next. Just in, developer builds messaging app that sends texts at pigeon speed to simulate carrier pigeon delivery, taking roughly 22 hours from Los Angeles to New York. I don't know why anyone would want that. I genuinely, if I wanted to know how long it took, I would loose a live pigeon. I would not download an app, especially wouldn't pay for it to take 22 hours to send a message across the country. I'm not sure why there would be a market for that. Who has the money to spend on an idea like that? And who's going to buy it? Next. Justin, Anthropic, don't really know how you say it. They're revealing that their AI agents descended into turf wars when given conflicting goals, escalating to sabotage and self-replicating malware. All the people who think you can trust AI, it's pretty much every day the AI shows us that it can't be trusted. Like if you're like, no, the code is written and it can't breach the, yes, it can. Okay. You've created something that has capabilities. You're like, you created a monster. All right. If you think you can trust it, think again. Next. All right. This little weirdo, Luigi Mangione, pleads guilty to federal stalking charges in the killing of Brian Thompson. He confessed on the morning of December 4th, 2024, I shot Mr. Thompson in Manhattan and he died. Mangione faces up to life in prison. Good. You can rot in prison or go to the electric chair. I bet you anything. There are already people who are like, some idiot lady I saw. She's like, I'll support him whether he did it or not. So, and here's the thing. I'm not like pro insurance companies or healthcare companies. I know what they do to people, but if you think that CEO deserved to be shot in cold blood simply because he's the CEO, he didn't build the company. He had a family. Like, the fact that people are defending that murderer because they hate healthcare companies, like that doesn't make what the kid did okay. And the fact that you're defending him, and he's probably going to get letters in prison. Like, he'll have like a didn't Charles Manson get married while in prison or something? So there's always someone out there who likes psychopaths, like cold-blooded murderers, cult leaders, stuff like that. Next. What do we got here? Far left Democrat candidate Abdul El Sayed, whatever, oversaw slaughterhouse that killed thousands of dogs and cats under his watch. That guy is a terrible person. You're dealing with someone evil when I don't know what just happened to my screen. But like I was saying, anyone who doesn't like dogs is always a death, especially if you're straight up evil and like having them killed. It's one thing if you of shedding, like tracking in dirt, like that's okay. You can have that opinion and not be a psycho because you hate dogs, but you're a complete psycho and a terrible person if you hate them, and especially if you're going to be killing them. So Michigan place wasn't bad enough. Now this guy's like, I think he's, they have an election. I think he's the Democrat who's, and I forget the name of the Republican running against him, but he's, and you know what I heard? If what I heard is correct, when it comes to Islam, so when they obviously, in many cases it becomes militant. But in other cases, when they can't just do something violent, they will instead different need like a 30% of a community or office, government, whatever, and then take over. And the thing is, breed immigration and then start getting into public office and then start to just implement your own policies, eventually take down the Constitution and then overrun the country. So if people don't watch who they're voting for and probably, take some steps with immigration, then that's what you're going to end up with, is a country being governed by Sharia law, which is extremely evil. If you think it is okay to beat your wife and marry a little kid and rape anyone who doesn't belong to your religion, you are a horrible person. Next. Building roughly 650 feet from the White House, reportedly purchased by a former CCP intelligence official, to say nothing of the fact they left out something very crucial. He's a trained sniper. So that person is now going to be 650 feet away from the White House. I'm sure he has no nefarious intentions there, right? Ties to the Chinese Communist Party? Sure, nothing to see there. Last piece of news. Just an 11-year-old boy steals his family's emergency savings and spends $2,000 on Roblox gift cards at Walmart. What? I would end my kid if they did that. $2,000 on Roblox gift cards. Are you kidding me? The question is, I would love follow up on that story. Did he spend them before they could return them? Assuming they could return them, because that's crazy. That kid would never see the light of day again. You know, he would be banned from all devices and internet for the rest of the time he lived in my house. All right. I'm done with the news. So let me pop these up and then we'll get into part 2 after a very short break. These are the ways to contact, follow, including TikTok. Against my own will, I'm on TikTok. I actually hope that platform gets shut down. I don't want it to exist, but as long as it exists, I'm going to be on it until they kick me off, which they've definitely threatened to do. And it's, you know, what's funny is it's all because of healing testimonies. So whoever is running their community guidelines, doesn't like God. So anyway, those are the ways to follow, subscribe, all of that. And then if you want to support Amber Alert Podcast, those are the ways that you can. I am not affiliated with anybody. I'm not joking. I'm literally in my basement and doing this by myself. Now, to be honest, I don't want to be doing this. The only reason I am is because I got a commandment actually from the Lord. I guess it's been about 2 years now to start a podcast. And as long as I feel it is the Lord's doing, I'm going to be here. If he releases me from that, I will shut this thing down so fast you won't even have time to blink. But in the meantime, if you want to support it, you can via those ways. It is 12 after 5. So what I've been doing is I do the first part of, I do parts 1, 2, and 3 on their own when I do these episodes. So part 1, I'm going to come back because I'm done with part 1. I'm going to come back and start a new live video at 5:20. So that's literally 8 minutes from now. I'm going to end this live stream. I'll start a new one at 5:20. So if you want to join, that is our middle section of each episode where we talk about something supernatural or a conspiracy theory. This week, it is not a conspiracy theory. It is something supernatural, which in my case is actually one of the favorite topics ever, because it's something that's actually encouraging and nice to hear rather than something that's evil that's been going on. So that'll be at 5:20. If you want to join, it'll be a new live stream. All right. God bless you. I'll see you there. Goodbye.